Hi, I'm Jen Campbell. This is Art About. I'm with Joli Ayn Wood, who's going to show us today some oil painting.
Yes, I am.
And I'm very excited. So we brought a whole setup here.
Yes.
You want to say anything about your setup?
Yeah, I'll start off with that. This is the easel I take when I go outside.
Yes.
I do about 80 to 85% of my work on location, painting from life. I also do things in the studio, but that's a different process and a different easel.
Yeah.
And but this is what I schlep out into the great outdoors when I want to go and paint. It's got a mixing trowel, a mixing place here, and room for my gear over here. Today we're going to utilize a little table that will help to hold some of the gear. I normally don't take the table out when I go.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love that. So I have some questions for you.
Okay. Do you mind if I go ahead and
Go for it.
Start?
Yeah, please do. When did you first consider yourself an artist?
That's a tough question. Well, I painted for several years before, as a hobby, more of a hobby, before I really, I've considered myself an artist, but I didn't consider myself a professional artist. I kind of call myself a semi-professional. I painted on the weekends, I did shows, but it wasn't until I took a flight out west to paint with some friends.
Okay.
And in doing so, I, of course, had been working in a corporate environment. I was sitting in first class.
Oh, wow.
And I had on my painter's garb. And the gentleman I sat next to, he said, "So what do you do?" And I gave him my elevator speech.
Oh, wow.
And at the day of that day, and he said, he looked at me, and he said, no, what do you really do?" and in that case, I said, well, yeah. He said, "Where are you going?" He said, "It's obvious you're not doing your regular job.
Dressed for business.
You're not dressed for business, right?
Right.
And so I said, no. I told him I was going out west to paint with some friends in Arizona. And I had, pulled out my little card. I had pictures of my work on it, and it told a little bit about me.
Yeah.
And I handed it to him. He said, "Why didn't you lead with this?"
Oh.
And that was the best question that anybody's ever asked me, actually, because it taught me that, he said, when you can lead with that, then you will be well on your way to being an artist. He said, you may be painting now, you may be doing shows, you may be doing things, you may be teaching, but until you can lead with that, you need to have it in your mind first, and then you become it.
And you lead with that now.
And I lead with that now.
I love that. That's great. So I've been to your studio. Your studio's great.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, how does the current place that you're painting, your studio, how does that influence your art?
Well, the neighborhood itself influences it, and I've moved my studio a couple of times in the last few years. I used to have it in Rockport on Main Street, and it was a real fishbowl of a place. Yeah. And it was sort of like a taffy shop. Sometimes I was making taffy, sometimes I wasn't, but people really enjoyed watching.
Okay.
And, where I'm at now is in Beverly Farms.
Beverly Farms.
And it's a little more private, and I'm able to dive in and really work on my craft, but also teach. And I teach privately, as well as in and around town, and in and around the North Shore. But your artist studio, it needs to have really good karma.
Ooh.
And I can usually tell that by walking in the place.
Describe that. What does that mean for you?
Is it a warm, safe haven to create art? Have other artists created in the space?
Okay.
It's nothing I can really describe. It's just a feeling that this is a good space.
A good space.
And you can make light happen. Even if it doesn't have the best light or it doesn't have a lot of windows, that's something technical that you can fix. But that feeling of being in a safe place to create is something you can't, money can't buy, or you can't just make. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about your process when you paint? Like, you're doing this now.
Yeah, and I love painting skies. And this scene is a marsh scene over. It's kind of out the back of Lobsterland over in Gloucester, and I took it out the window. I'd had dinner there one night, and I just really loved it. Right now, I'm just starting with a road map and just knowing where my design is.
What do you mean by roadmap?
A veritable road map. If you drive your car down a street or you're going someplace, you have a way to get there.
Yeah.
With this, it's more the initial design, but it's a launching point for the remainder of the painting.
I see.
Yeah. So I'm not really capturing any detail. I'm just trying to find where the elements are going to lie, and if I liked the way that the clouds kind of came down, and I loved the contrast of the yellow against the purple, the orange against the blue. You got some complementary colors going on there. You also have a full spectrum of colors going on,
Right.
as well. So
Love that. Is there anything that you're particularly working on right now? Like things that in painting that you're trying to perfect or you're trying to master?
I think color theory has been something I've been working on for the last few years.
Yeah.
Starting in the pandemic, I'd always been a hunt and pecker as far as my color mixing.
Okay.
And I was that artist, that girl who would go to workshops, and I would hover and I would ask the artist that was teaching the workshop, well, how did you get that color? And then I'd go out and buy the tubes and I'd make the color, and the next thing I knew I had a million tubes in my bag.
Right.
And as a plein air painter, somebody who paints out of doors, you want to dwindle your gear. You don't want to
Have a lot
have
of gear.
more.
Yeah. Because
color-
you're carrying things around.
Right. But
Yeah.
but the color harmony was also something that I was really striving for. And so because of that, I ended up going back to a very basic color theory where you're mixing from primary colors or from three colors, a red, a blue, and a yellow.
Got it.
And the choice of the red, blue, and yellow may vary, but it's still just the three colors. And then mixing out from there, I'm able to get just a whole spectrum, the whole prism of colors, the whole color wheel of colors.
So you're doing the trees right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the trees.
And why are you picking that color for the trees?
Because, I'm picking something that's similar to it, but in the end, and if I had a little bit more time,
Yep.
I would be layering a little bit more, but I'm going to put on more of the color that I see.
Okay.
And it's also the darkest thing in the piece. So it's the darkest color, the darkest value.
Yep.
When you think about a scale of light to dark, and a value of 1 being white and a value of 10 being black,
Yep.
you want to know what the lightest thing is in a subject that you're painting and the darkest thing.
Yep.
To where that matters. If you get the values right and your color is off, your subject and your interest is still going to read. Your final piece is still going to look like whatever it is.
Okay.
It will still look like the thing. It may be off on color, but at least the depth will read and the composition will read.
Got it.
And it makes it a little easier. So
you usually favor painting the dark colors earlier in the painting?
yes. So
Okay.
after the and I'll go for a dark a dark, but I won't go for the absolute darkest thing.
Okay.
Because you still have to have room to go darker, even
I
still,
see. Yeah.
or lighter, even still. So I will often take things to almost as light as it should be and almost as dark as it should be to allow for the darkest highlights, like the darkest darks, and then the little singy highlights that you end up putting on at the very end of the piece.
I see.
So,
I see.
so for now, I'm just looking at, this is sort of a dark area, getting some basic shapes. May vary the tops of the trees here.
I see what you're doing. You're making the tops of the trees and giving it definition.
And yes, and I'm not being overly perfect about it.
Yep.
The eye fills in a lot of things.
Really?
The mind.
Describe that for me.
Well, the mind, the brain fills in a lot more than you would think it would.
So the viewer of the painting.
So the viewer of the painting can translate shapes and colors and lights and darks and know, okay, this is a tree line. Maybe they've been there, maybe they haven't. But I also am going to leave that rather rough.
Yep.
Because I have other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I like to work sort of around the panel to where it gives things a chance to tack up and dry a little bit to where I can put another layer on when I'm out of doors.
Got it.
Yeah. So from here, I'm actually going to find this green here. It sits a little bit outside of my wheel right now that I have.
Okay.
If I want to test a color, I can always bring it up towards the easel.
I see.
And I think, okay, is that really what I want to do?
Yep.
Or do I want to create something a little bit deeper in tone?
So you're mixing the blue and the yellow to make a green.
Right.
I see.
Just going to mix a little bit more of that color. It's probably not going to be exactly what it should be.
Neat. Talking about places that we go, how does being in the North Shore sort of influence your art?
Oh, it's influenced it. Just general travel and going to different places.
Yeah.
And the North Shore has, I think, the finest, most extraordinary light. Very different, very crystalline. Things are very crystal clear when you look at the sky, when you look at the water, and artists have been painting here for generations because of that light.
Huh.
And but light differs wherever you go, and it really the light is what I love up here. I also love the tradition and the history
Of the artists in this area.
Yes.
Like who?
Well, the Cape Ann School, which was all along the North Shore, really.
Yeah.
Painters like Emile Groupé and Aldo Hibbard. Those are two. Lester Stevens.
Okay.
And then the modern painters I follow, who I know personally, and who are friends of mine. And the screen is still eluding me, as they always do. Would be Stapleton Kearns, John Caggiano. They're both of Rockport. T.M. Nicholas and his son. Well, Tom and T.M. T.M.'s the son. I got to get that right here in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a little too dark.
Okay.
But I love being able to be friends with them and to know them and to go on painting outings with them.
That's great.
And that's, to me, one of the biggest benefits of being here versus my home state, which is Virginia.
Okay.
I moved up a few years ago, and I found that being able to get to know some of these artists and understand what they do, how they do it, it has been invaluable to me as a painter. And I'm really thrilled to be able to do what I do.
The painting is the reason that you moved from Virginia to Massachusetts?
No, life change.
Life change.
Life change. I needed a change. It was time.
Yeah.
I was staring, middle age in the mirror.
Oh.
And I thought, it's time to leave and go do something big.
Right.
I just felt like the time. The life change happened, and I thought I'm gonna move somewhere. I made a list of potential places, and that green is just really screaming at me. Potential places, and I ended up coming up here, and I'm really glad I did.
And we're glad you did.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on to the sky because I think then I'll know what to do with the grass.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
An interesting question I have is, do you have a motto or a creed that you live by?
I guess the first one that comes to mind is something that I say a lot, and it's a tagline that I use in my social media,
Yep.
which is to make it count.
Make it
And
count.
I always want to be able to not only make something count in my life every day, even if it's just getting up and unloading the dishwasher. I know that sounds odd, but I remember when both my parents are deceased, and going through the grief process, finding one thing that you could do every day. And get up and do, and if you did that one thing, you knew that you did something. So
Right.
making it count not only in my personal life, but also realizing that there's a whole world out there, and just trying to make somebody's life a little bit better each day.
Yep.
And being genuine about it. I think that there's so much, so often people will tell you what they think you want to hear, not maybe what you need to hear.
I see.
And they also, we walk around in the world with all of our devices. And some of my corporate training has taught me to really take note of people and each individual that I come into contact with each day, and see who they are, maybe understand who they are,
Yep.
and understand that they're going through this life just like everybody else.
And doing the best they can.
That's right. That's right.
You said you had a corporate life, and you spoke a little bit about it. Is there anything you want to?
I was in the payments industry
Okay.
for about 30 years,
Oh, wow.
and the last 10 years of that, I traveled on airplanes a lot
Oh, wow.
and did a lot of very, very important things for very important people.
Yep.
And it's sort of something when I look back on it now, I think, wow, there's so many other things I could be doing.
Right. Interesting.
So, but it made me who I am, and I'm here now, and living this life, and it's different every day.
Yep.
I do a lot of teaching. I do, of course, I paint. Obviously, I go out and paint, and I see friends out and about. But I also I teach. I teach at the Council on Aging in Topsfield.
Yep.
And I really like bringing art into the community.
Yep.
So as much as I want to have my art out and about, little plug there, out and about.
Yep.
As much as I want to, I also want to make a difference for people with art.
Yes.
And so everything that I take on, everything I say yes to, I feel like needs to sit within that idea of is it good for me? Is it good for the community? Is it something that people will get something out of, that they'll enjoy?
Right.
The last thing I really take into consideration is, is it going to make me famous? Is it going to, I don't know. It's just, I just try to be who I am.
Yep.
And and enjoy what I do. And they've taken, I could get my soapbox out and get up on it about the arts in the school systems and in today's world, and it's not really seen as a career path.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, there is so much enrichment that happens with the arts and including it, not only in the schools, but in everyday life. And it can bring joy to people in everyday life.
Right, right. If you were to give advice to a young artist or a starting artist, what would that advice be?
Do it because you must do it.
Do it because you must do it. Why is that?
Otherwise, it's just going to frustrate you beyond anything. You have to love it.
Yep.
I think it's like anything you do. If it's something you truly love and you have a passion for it, this is something my dad used to say.
Yeah.
When I told him that I was going to go into art history and I was going to major in antiquities and work in a museum, he said, do you love it? And I said, I absolutely love it. And he said, well, if you really love it and you're passionate about it and you're willing to stick with it, then the career or the money will follow. Mm-mm. And I'm still waiting on some of that, but I'm trying to stick with it. But I would say for young artists today, don't do it to get likes, and don't do it. Do it because you really want to create.
Yep.
Do it because you have something down here that needs to come out.
Yep.
And the only way you can express it is through some sort of tactile creation. Mm-hmm. Same thing with music. I also studied music in college.
Okay.
And I was a singer for most of my life.
Oh, wow.
For a long time.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that. In the end, sometimes if you don't use it, you lose it. Mm. And art really seemed to replace that feeling.
Yep.
That I had when I would sing. And I loved art. There was so much you could do with it. And so I stuck with the art in the end. But say yes a lot is another thing.
Say yes a lot.
The power of saying yes for a year is huge. Say yes to everything, even if it's something, if you're just starting out, even if it's something that you aren't sure of.
Right.
But say yes to things that you aren't even sure that you can do, because you don't know until you try.
Right.
So,
right.
And then after saying yes for a year, you have to learn how to say no. Uh-huh. Because after having said yes for a year, you get very popular. And so then you can be a little more picky and choosy. But saying yes a lot is a good way to move forward, and not be afraid of it.
Well, Joli, I'm glad you said yes to us.
Yes.
At ArtAbout. I end every show with a poem, and I sign it, and I give it to the artist as a gift and date it. So I'm going to say our poem.
Can I continue to paint while you read?
Yes, please do. Great. Please do. So the title of this poem is Color Wheel. And it starts with, there's a richness in blue and a stillness in white that sidesteps the magic in purple and the strength and steadiness of maroon. To mix the paints and get together, a trip into oils and keeping with the brush, full of love and full of art.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's your poem.
That's my poem?
That's your poem. You get to keep it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
Thank you.
Put it in your studio.
Thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Yes, this has been fabulous. I really appreciate it.
I will be finishing this up probably in the studio. I
Oh,
don't know
good.
how much time we have left.
Well, I want to get where can people find you?
People can find me. People can find me in Beverly Farms at 22 Oak Street. I'm nearby the Beverly Farms Depot, kind of catty corner to the Doggy Depot. I see a lot of puppy dogs every day, and I hear them too. You can also find me online. The easiest way is going out to Google and typing either Joli Ayn Wood or my studio name, Studio in the Farms. Both of those will bring up a website, JoliAynWood.com
Okay.
or StudioInTheFarms.com.
Okay.
And it will also, you can also see some of the history, some of the things I did back in my home state of Virginia. I'm also on social media on Instagram. It's at Joli's Art, JOLISART. And I am on Facebook with Studio in the Farms as well as my personal one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing your easel and all of your paints and brushes. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was Jen Campbell with ArtAbout.